The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council gleamed with dazzling lights and intricate holograms, showcasing the technological prowess of its member civilizations. Delegates from across the galaxy filled the chamber, their forms ranging from glowing spheres to towering insectoids, each species flaunting its superiority. And then there were the humans, small, soft, and new to the Council. Despite being a young species in galactic terms, humanity had fought tooth and nail to earn its seat among the stars. But tonight, their presence was more a source of amusement than respect. Whispers and chuckles spread through the hall as the Scifi monarch, a massive golden-scaled reptilian figure, rose from his throne-like chair. King Zorthus of the Scifi Empire was a figure of power, commanding respect wherever he went. His empire was one of the wealthiest and most advanced in the galaxy, their gravitational engineering technology unmatched. But tonight, his booming voice carried a tone that was more sardonic than diplomatic. "I, King Zorthus," he declared, "offer humanity a most generous proposal. An alliance between our peoples, sealed by the sacred bond of matrimony." The hall erupted in murmurs, with many delegates exchanging amused glances. "This alliance," the king continued, "shall be solidified through the marriage of my beloved daughter, Princess Frexa, to a representative of your species." The whispers turned into poorly concealed laughter. The Scifi Empire's wealth and power were legendary, but so was the reputation of Princess Frexa. In Scifi culture, beauty was equated with sleek scales, sharp horns, and symmetrical features. Frexa, however, was considered an unfortunate deviation. Her scales dull, her horns uneven, and her eyes mismatched. Her appearance had been the subject of galactic gossip for years. Among the humans, the mood was tense. Ambassador Elise Carter, humanity's representative, kept her expression neutral, though her mind raced. She had anticipated challenges at the summit, but this public mockery was unexpected. Refusing the proposal would confirm humanity's weakness, but accepting it seemed equally fraught with danger. From the corner of her eye, Elise could see some human delegates shifting uncomfortably. The decision rested on her shoulders, and the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for humanity to embarrass itself further. "Ambassador Carter," King Zorthus said, his voice tripping with false sincerity, "surely you recognize the honor of such an offer. Or do humans lack the courage to accept a gift from the mighty Scifi Empire?" The laughter grew louder. Elise stood, her formal uniform pristine, and her face calm. She walked to the center of the chamber, her every step echoing in the silence that followed her movement. "King Zorthus," she began, her voice steady, "humanity is honored by your proposal. An alliance with the Scifi Empire would be a privilege for any species. And as for courage," she paused, letting her gaze sweep across the room. "We have that in abundance." The laughter died. The hall was silent now, every eye, whether glowing, multifaceted, or otherwise, fixed on her. "I accept your proposal," Elise declared, her tone firm. "Princess Frexa shall be welcomed as a member of humanity, and this alliance will mark the beginning of a prosperous future for both our peoples." Gasps echoed through the chamber. King Zorthus's smug expression faltered for a moment before he recovered, his surprise hidden behind a sharp-toothed smile. The other council members were less composed, their shock plain. One delegate, a translucent, jellyfish-like being, whispered to another, "Do they not know who she is?" Another, a metallic humanoid, muttered, "Desperation must be a human trait." Elise ignored them. She had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. The meeting adjourned shortly after, but the tension lingered. Back in the human delegation's quarters, Elise faced the barrage of questions and concerns from her colleagues. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" one aide demanded. "The princess is—" "Not what they expected," Elise interrupted. "I know, and that's why this will work." Her colleagues exchanged doubtful looks. "Listen," Elise said, her voice softening. "This wasn't just about saving face. The Scifi Empire's technology is decades, maybe centuries ahead of ours. If we play this right, this alliance could change everything for Earth. Besides, she hesitated, her voice taking on a resolute edge. I refuse to let humanity be the laughingstock of the galaxy. We're better than that. The room fell silent. Finally, one of the senior diplomats nodded. You're taking a big risk, Ambassador. Let's hope it pays off. Later that night, as Elise prepared for her first meeting with Princess Vrexa, she allowed herself a moment to reflect. The council's laughter still echoed in her mind, but so did the determination to prove them wrong. Let them laugh now, she thought. We'll see who's laughing in the end. Unbeknownst to her, in a private chamber aboard the Scifi flagship, Princess Vrexa sat alone, gazing out at the stars. She had heard the whispers, the mockery, the ridicule that followed her everywhere. But tonight, for the first time, someone had chosen to stand with her. And that, she thought, might just be enough to change everything. The grand halls of the Scifi flagship were a far cry from the cold, sterile corridors of Earth's government buildings. Elise Carter marveled at the luxurious surroundings, though her mind was firmly focused on the task at hand. She had to meet Princess Vrexa, the very woman who had been the subject of so much mockery at the Galactic Council summit. The princess had been described as everything from a disaster of genetics to an insult to the Scifi royal line. But Elise, with her usual resolve, was determined to approach this with an open mind. The rumors would have to be tested against reality, not gossip. As she walked through the ornate corridors, Elise's thoughts wandered. She knew the eyes of the galaxy were on her. The whole galaxy had laughed when humanity accepted the proposal, but now, the real challenge was proving that the decision was more than just an attempt to save face. The alliance could be a game changer for Earth, but only if it was built on mutual respect. She arrived at the door to Princess Vrexa's chamber, a tall, polished gateway adorned with intricate carvings of ancient Scifi symbols. Elise paused, took a deep breath, and knocked. Enter, came a voice from within. It was calm, but with an edge of authority that Elise could feel even from the other side of the door. Elise stepped in. Princess Vrexa sat by the window, her back turned, gazing at the stars. Her appearance, as rumors had said, was far from perfect by galactic standards. Her scales were a dull greenish gray, and her horns were jagged and uneven, not the smooth, elegant curves most Scifi were known for. One of her eyes was larger than the other, and her lips were thin, her expression sharp. But what struck Elise the most was the intensity in Vrexa's posture. She wasn't sulking in self-pity. She was watching the stars with the same unblinking focus that Elise had often seen in the most accomplished diplomats. Princess Vrexa, Elise said, her voice warm, it's an honor to meet you. The princess turned, her mismatched eyes meeting Elise's. There was no warmth in the gaze, but there was no hostility either, just a careful, almost calculating observation. The honor is mine. Ambassador Carter. Vrexa replied, her voice deeper than Elise had expected, carrying an air of both strength and melancholy. Not many are willing to acknowledge my existence, let alone come here to meet me face to face. Elise felt a pang of guilt, but she quickly shook it off. I believe in judging others by their actions, not appearances. Vrexa let out a small, almost imperceptible chuckle. A rare trait in the galaxy, I've heard. Most would rather gossip behind my back. Elise took a step closer, but did not sit. I've heard the rumors, but I'm not here for gossip. I'm here to work with you, to help shape a future that benefits both our peoples. Vrexa's gaze softened, but only just. How quaint. You're the first to treat me like an equal in many years. But you must realize that you've been forced into this marriage to save your planet. Don't think for a second that I don't know why you agreed. Elise stood tall, meeting the princess's gaze with unwavering confidence. I agreed because I believe this alliance could change everything. Earth is on the verge of technological breakthroughs, but we need your knowledge, your empire's knowledge, to take us there. And in return, we offer our resources and innovation. But it's not just about technology. It's about respect. And we have plenty of that for you. Vrexa raised an eyebrow. Respect, you say, from a species that knows so little of the stars and their wonders. Elise smiled. Respect isn't earned by knowledge alone. It's earned by how we treat one another. And so far, I've seen no reason to treat you any differently from any other member of the council. The princess was silent for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly as she considered Elise's words. You think I haven't heard it all before? I've been mocked for my looks, ridiculed by my own people, and made a joke among the galactic elite. You don't even know how many times I've been offered marriage to some prince or another as a political tool, all to save face. Elise's heart clenched at the raw emotion in Vrexa's voice. And you think I'm any different? She asked gently. You think this is just another political game to me? I don't care about what the council says, or what the rumors say. I'm here because I believe you're more than your appearance. You have the intellect, the heart, and the strength to make a real difference, both for your people and mine. For a long moment, Vrexa didn't respond. The room was thick with silence, broken only by the distant hum of the ship's engines. Elise stood her ground, refusing to look away. Finally, Vrexa sighed, her shoulders sagging ever so slightly. You've given me something I haven't had in a long time, the princess said quietly. Hope. Maybe. Maybe I've been wrong to assume all humans are the same. I'll work with you, Ambassador Carter. But know this, I do not trust easily. Earn it. Elise nodded, her expression determined. I will. And I'll prove that this alliance is not just a means to an end. It's the start of something much bigger. The princess gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod, as if conceding a tiny victory. Then let's begin. The galaxy won't know what hit it. As Elise left the chamber, she couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. This was only the beginning, but it was the first real step toward something extraordinary. The laughter from the council still echoed in her mind, but she was confident that, in time, it would fade. And soon, humanity would make its mark on the stars, starting with the alliance that no one had seen coming. In the days following the meeting, Elise Carter and Princess Vrexa spent hours in private discussions, working side by side to chart the course for their future alliance. Despite the initial awkwardness, a quiet respect was forming between them. Elise had come to admire Vrexa's sharp intellect, which far surpassed the superficial judgments of the galactic elite. But there was something else, something more than just intelligence, that made Elise's conviction grow stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they sat together in a research lab aboard the Scifi flagship, Elise noticed the shift in Vrexa's demeanor. The princess, usually reserved and calculated, was now deep in concentration, scribbling equations across a holographic screen. The faint hum of the ship's engines was the only sound that accompanied the rhythmic tapping of her clawed fingers. Are you always this focused? Elise asked, leaning over to see the complex symbols and diagrams Vrexa was creating. The princess barely glanced up, her eyes locked on the screen. Focus is required for those who wish to achieve the impossible, Vrexa replied, her voice calm but laced with an intensity Elise had rarely seen. And that is exactly what we must do, Ambassador Carter. The galaxy will never respect humanity unless you can show them that you are capable of achieving greatness. Not by fighting, but by building, by creating. Elise raised an eyebrow. Creating. I thought the Scifi were the masters of gravity manipulation. What do we have to offer in that regard? Vrexa's lips curled into the faintest smile. You think too small, Ambassador. The Scifi Empire may have perfected gravitational technology, but that does not mean we have unlocked all of its potential. You humans, with your unusual creativity, may just be the key. Elise leaned in, intrigued. What are you suggesting? Vrexa paused for a moment, her eyes flicking to the data on the screen. I've been working on a new theory, one that could combine the gravitational manipulation of our empire with the quantum computing advancements your species has begun to develop. Imagine a technology that allows ships to travel faster than light without the constraints of traditional fuel. Imagine bending space itself to your will. Elise felt a chill run down her spine. Faster than light travel. But that's just a dream, isn't it? Vrexa nodded slowly. That is what the galaxy believes. But there are theories, possibilities, that have been dismissed as nonsense. I intend to prove them true, and I believe we can do it together. Elise was speechless for a moment. The very thought of achieving such a breakthrough was mind-boggling. The implications were beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. Faster-than-light travel was the stuff of legends, something that only the most advanced civilizations, like the Scifi, could dream of. Yet here was Princess Vrexa, an outcast among her own people, suggesting that humanity might hold the missing piece of the puzzle. But how? Elise asked, still trying to wrap her mind around the idea. Vrexa turned to face her, her mismatched eyes filled with a rare spark of excitement. That's where you come in, Ambassador. Your species has an untapped potential for innovation. I've read reports of human engineers who built things from almost nothing, who saw solutions where others saw only obstacles. You're not as advanced as the Scifi, but you have something we don't. Imagination, the ability to think outside the box. If we combine that with the knowledge I have, we might just unlock a way to manipulate space-time itself. Elise felt a mix of excitement and disbelief. The idea was so wild, so out of reach, that it could either be a massive breakthrough or a complete disaster. But one thing was certain: if anyone could make this work, it was Vrexa. All right, Elise said, determination settling in her chest. Let's do it. Show me what you have so far, and we'll start working on this together. Vrexa smiled, a rare sight, and began to explain her theory in more detail. The hours passed quickly as they dove into the complex equations and simulations, with Elise absorbing every word and contributing her own ideas. It became clear that Vrexa's brilliance extended far beyond what anyone had ever given her credit for. She was not just a princess trapped by her appearance. She was a visionary, one whose ideas could change the fate of entire civilizations. As the days turned into weeks, the project grew more ambitious. They began to collaborate with Earth's top physicists, using the combined knowledge of both species to test the feasibility of their theory. Elise had expected resistance from Earth's scientific community, but much to her surprise, they were eager to help. The potential of a faster-than-light drive was too great to ignore. For once, humanity wasn't on the back foot. They were leading the charge. One evening, as Elise and Vrexa reviewed their latest calculations, Elise couldn't help but ask, "Why didn't you share this idea with the Scifi Empire? Why keep it hidden?" Vrexa's expression darkened for a moment, and her eyes lost their usual intensity. The Scifi Empire cares only for power. They would never let such a breakthrough be shared. They would keep it for themselves, use it to dominate and control. That's not the kind of future I want. Elise nodded, understanding now more than ever why the princess had agreed to this alliance. Vrexa wasn't just seeking personal redemption. She was trying to build something better for the galaxy, something free from the oppressive rule of her own people. As the first successful simulations began to emerge, the sense of accomplishment was undeniable. They were closer than ever to proving that humanity, and their unlikely ally, Princess Vrexa, had the potential to change the galaxy. But the harder they worked, the more enemies they made. The Galactic Council's laughter was fading, but it was being replaced by something far more dangerous. Fear of what humanity and the Scifi could achieve together. And soon, those who had once mocked them would find out just how deadly that fear could be. The tension in the galactic community was growing. What had started as quiet whispers about humanity's sudden alliance with Princess Vrexa had quickly escalated into a fierce undercurrent of opposition. At first, it was subtle: the backhanded compliments, the mocking glances. But now, the veiled threats were beginning to emerge. Elise Carter felt the weight of it all in her bones. What had once been a political maneuver to save humanity had morphed into something much more dangerous. The Scifi Empire, which had once considered Princess Vrexa a useless heir, was now growing worried. The princess's new alliance with humanity and their shared scientific endeavor was no longer something to laugh at. It was a serious threat to the established order of the galaxy. In the heart of the Scifi Empire's vast capital, a small group of high-ranking officials sat in a dimly lit room, their faces grim. The holographic projections around them showed live feeds of the human delegation aboard the flagship, their constant work on the faster-than-light technology, and the growing successes of Elise and Vrexa's project. "How long do we let this continue?" asked a tall, silver-scaled Scifi officer, his voice laced with barely contained frustration. "The humans are progressing too quickly. Soon, they'll be able to rival us in the one thing we have always considered our advantage: technology. The princess is a fool if she thinks we'll let her succeed." Another officer, his jagged features twisted in a sneer, spoke up. "Vrexa's alliance with the humans is a betrayal of everything we've built. She is to be silenced before her ideas spread further." "But she is the only one who holds the key," said a third official, her voice calmer but no less dangerous. "We cannot afford to attack her directly, not yet. If we push too hard, she will turn the humans against us. The princess may be a nuisance, but she is not the true threat. The humans are." The first officer grunted in agreement. "Then we must destroy the foundation of their collaboration. If we can turn the humans away from Vrexa, we'll have them right where we want them." A dark silence fell over the room. Each officer knew what had to be done. Meanwhile, aboard the Scifi flagship, the work between Elise and Vrexa had only intensified. Every day, new breakthroughs came to light. They had achieved a series of successful quantum entanglements, an early step toward the theoretical faster-than-light drive they had envisioned. But even as their progress soared, a cloud of unease loomed over them. Elise had noticed it too. The Scifi seemed increasingly distant, their interactions cold and perfunctory. But it was more than just an uncomfortable atmosphere. There were whispers, subtle looks exchanged in the hallways, and hushed voices in the corridors. Vrexa's isolation had become even more pronounced. One evening, after a particularly grueling session of calculations and simulations, Elise found herself in the princess's quarters, looking over the data for the 100th time. Vrexa was at the window, her expression as distant as the stars outside. "Something's wrong," Elise said, breaking the silence. "I can feel it. The others, they're not as supportive as they were at first." "There's talk, Vrexa. People are whispering." Vrexa turned slowly, her mismatched eyes meeting Elise's. "They're scared," she said quietly. "The Scifi fear change. And they fear what you and I could accomplish together. My father, he would rather see this alliance fail than to have me prove them wrong." Elise's heart sank. She had known the Scifi were proud, but she hadn't realized how far the pride ran. "You think your father will try to stop us?" "I know he will," Vrexa replied, her voice tinged with a quiet determination. "The Scifi Empire doesn't forgive failure, and they will never forgive me for making an alliance with a species they consider inferior." Elise frowned, feeling the weight of the situation. She had come here to help her planet, to build a future with the Scifi. But now, she realized, their alliance was no longer just about politics. It was a battle for survival. They were on the brink of something revolutionary, but they were also on the edge of a precipice. Suddenly, a sharp beep interrupted her thoughts. A message had arrived. A secure transmission from Earth. Elise immediately opened it. Her eyes narrowed as she read the contents. "Vrexa," she said, turning to the princess. "The council. They've issued a warning. They'd been receiving reports of sabotage from within their ranks. Someone's trying to stop our work." Vrexa's expression darkened. "I warned you," she muttered. "It's not just the Scifi Empire. The whole galaxy fears what you and I are trying to do." Elisa's mind raced. We need to act fast. If they think they can sabotage our project, we need to find a way to protect it. For the next several hours, Elise and Vrexa worked together, tightening security protocols and preparing for the inevitable. They knew that the galaxy would do everything in its power to stop them. But they were ready. "We'll finish this," Elise said with quiet resolve. "We're too close now. No one can stop us." Vrexa's eyes locked onto hers, a rare flicker of pride showing through her otherwise guarded expression. No one, indeed. Together, we will make history. As the days passed, the tension between them and the Scifi leadership grew unbearable. Secret meetings, stolen data, and threats. Everything pointed to the fact that their enemies were closing in. But Elise and Vrexa knew that the real battle had just begun. The galaxy had laughed at them once. Now they would show the galaxy what it meant to underestimate humanity and the princess they had so cruelly ridiculed. Soon, the entire galaxy would know that the alliance between humanity and Princess Vrexa wasn't just about survival. It was about rewriting the future. And no one, not even the most powerful empires, could stop them. The tension aboard the Scifi flagship had reached its breaking point. Elise Carter could feel it every time she stepped into a room, every time she crossed paths with another Scifi officer. The friendly exchanges had turned cold, and the once supportive engineers were now avoiding her eyes, their faces unreadable. Something was wrong, and Elise had no illusions. Whatever it wasn't good. Princess Vrexa had noticed it too. The quiet glances, the hushed conversations just out of earshot, the subtle withdrawal of support. It was all becoming too much to ignore. The Scifi leadership might have been pretending to cooperate, but in truth, they were actively working against them. And with the critical milestone of faster-than-light travel so close, the risk of sabotage was higher than ever. Elise had spent the past few days reviewing the security systems with her team. Everything seemed tight, but she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were missing something. She wasn't the only one. Vrexa had been distant, lost in thought, her sharp eyes always scanning their surroundings. One night, as they sat in Vrexa's quarters, reviewing the latest data, the princess spoke up. "You're right to be worried, Ambassador," she said, her voice low. "We've been followed. I can feel their eyes on us." Elise looked at her, trying to keep her expression neutral. "You're sure?" Vrexa nodded, her gaze distant. "It's not just the Scifi leadership. They've been in contact with someone outside the Empire, someone who doesn't want us to succeed." A chill ran through Elise. "Outside the Empire? Who?" Vrexa hesitated, then spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "The Uril Consortium. They'd been undermining our work from the start. They don't want any of us to achieve faster-than-light travel. They fear the power such a technology would bring." Elise frowned. The Uril Consortium. But why involve the Scifi? "Because the Scifi are vulnerable," Vrexa said, her voice filled with quiet anger. "The Uril Consortium has been feeding them lies, convincing them that humans are nothing but a tool to manipulate. And they think that if they stop us now, they can maintain their control over the galaxy. The Scifi Empire is too proud, too afraid to admit that they may not be the galaxy's true leaders anymore." Elise took a deep breath, her thoughts racing. The implications of what Vrexa had said were staggering. The Uril Consortium, an intergalactic group known for its ruthless business tactics, had their fingers in nearly every pie, controlling entire sectors of the galaxy's economy. They had everything to lose if humans and the Scifi broke their control. "We need to expose this," Elise said firmly, her voice full of resolve. "We can't let them sabotage our project. We need to find proof, and we need to move quickly." Vrexa nodded, her sharp eyes meeting Elise's. "We can't do it alone. The Scifi leadership will protect their own. If we're going to stop the sabotage, we need allies." Elise's mind went back to Earth's political situation. They had already prepared for the possibility of threats from outside forces. But now, They needed to move fast to protect the technology they had worked so hard to develop. The council has to be informed, Elise said. They won't believe it unless we have evidence. We need to gather intel, and we need to do it before the Uril make their move. But before they could make any plans, the alarms suddenly went off throughout the flagship. Elise and Vrexa exchanged a glance, knowing that something had gone wrong. Fast. We've been compromised, Vrexa said, her voice urgent. They've made their move. The ship's corridors filled with a flurry of activity as officers rushed to their stations, trying to regain control of the situation. Elise felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Whoever was behind this had acted swiftly and decisively. She had to find out what was happening, and fast. Together, she and Vrexa ran to the nearest security station, hoping to access the internal communication systems. As they entered the control room, a technician greeted them with a worried look. Ambassador, Princess, something's happened to the data. There's been an external breach, the technician said, his hands frantically typing commands into the console. We're losing connection to all key systems. Elise's heart sank. The sabotage had begun. We need to stop this now, Elise said, her mind working quickly. Where's the source of the breach? The technician pointed to a series of red alerts flashing on the screen. It's coming from one of the engineering sectors. It's possible that someone within our ranks is working with the Uril. Vrexa's face hardened. I should have known. The Scifi Empire has always had its secrets. Now those secrets are betraying us. The Lice didn't hesitate. We need to get to the engineering sector and stop the sabotage before it spreads further. Come on, Vrexa. The princess nodded, and together they raced through the corridors, weaving through the bustling crew and officers trying to regain control of the ship. The air was thick with tension, but Elise's determination only grew stronger. This wasn't just about proving themselves anymore. It was about survival. As they arrived at the engineering sector, Elise could feel the energy in the air. Sparks flew from open conduits, and engineers scrambled to contain the damage. Elise spotted the lead technician in the chaos and rushed to him. What's going on? She demanded. We're dealing with a systems crash, Ambassador, he said, his face pale. Someone has infiltrated our systems. They're trying to disable everything we've worked for. Vrexa stepped forward, her eyes blazing. We need to find the traitor. Now. The technician looked at her nervously. We're trying, Princess, but we don't know where the breach started. Before they could continue, a sudden explosion shook the floor beneath them. The ship's alarms blared louder, and the overhead lights flickered. The sabotage was no longer a quiet threat. It was here, right in front of them. Elise clenched her fists, her mind racing. We're not letting them win. Not now. Not ever. With renewed urgency, Elise, Vrexa, and the remaining engineers worked to secure the ship. But they knew one thing for certain. The galaxy's fear of what they could achieve was turning into something far darker. A battle was coming, and they had to be ready. The sabotage had reached a new level. The explosions, the failing systems, the chaos, everything was spiraling out of control. Elise Carter and Princess Vrexa stood in the heart of the ship's engineering sector, working alongside the Scifi engineers to fight back against the attack. Time was running out, and every second that passed felt like an eternity. We have to get to the main control hub, Elise said, her voice tight with urgency. If we don't stop the breach from there, we're done. Vrexa nodded, her expression fierce. I'll lead the way. The saboteur won't escape. They rushed through the corridors, the ship now alive with the sounds of alarms blaring and emergency lights flashing. The Scifi engineers were scrambling to stabilize the failing systems, but the damage was too widespread. The enemy had infiltrated deeper than anyone had realized, and now it seemed as if their efforts were all but in vain. As they moved closer to the central control hub, Elise couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. There was something unsettling about the way the crew members reacted to their presence. They moved quickly, but their eyes, those eyes, were filled with suspicion. Something's not right, Elise muttered, glancing at Vrexa. "Do you feel it too?" Vrexa's sharp gaze darted around the hallway. "I've suspected it for some time. This is no random act of sabotage. Someone inside the ship is orchestrating this." Elise's heart skipped a beat. A traitor. Vrexa's eyes narrowed. Yes, someone who's working with the Uril consortium. It's always been their plan to stop us. But now they're getting desperate. They're attacking from within. Before Elise could respond, a voice crackled through the communication system, a voice they both knew too well. "This is Captain Azneth. We have a situation on Deck 7. Repeat, we have a security breach. All units report immediately." A chill ran down Elise's spine. Captain Azneth was one of the highest-ranking officers aboard the ship, and until now, he had been one of the few who had shown support for their project. But now the sudden call for a security lockdown felt off. Elise exchanged a look with Vrexa. "That's where the sabotage is coming from," Vrexa said, her voice low. "We need to get there before the traitor does." They quickened their pace, knowing that every second was critical. As they rounded a corner, Elise spotted a group of Scifi officers heading in the opposite direction. Their expressions were unreadable, but something in the way they moved, too stiff, too controlled, told Elise that they weren't there to help. "Vrexa," she whispered urgently, "we have to move fast. They know we're coming." Vrexa didn't hesitate. She lunged forward, her sharp reflexes taking over as she used her strength to push Elise behind a corner. The officers had noticed them, and were now closing in. "Get ready," Vrexa said, her voice steely. "We'll have to fight our way through." Elise's heart raced. She had never imagined a day when she would have to face a Scifi officer in combat, especially not alongside the princess. But now, with the fate of their mission hanging in the balance, there was no choice. The officers stopped just a few feet away from where they hid. Elise could hear them muttering among themselves in their native language, their voices low but sharp. They were deciding their next move, and Elise knew that they wouldn't hesitate to attack. Vrexa pulled out a small, sleek weapon from her belt, a Scifi stun gun. "I'll take the one on the left. You get the right." Elise nodded, her fingers trembling slightly as she gripped the weapon she had been given. She wasn't a soldier, but she had learned enough in her time on the Scifi flagship to know how to defend herself. They had no time to waste. At Vrexa's signal, the two women leaped from their hiding spot, catching the officers off guard. The first shot rang out, and one of the officers collapsed to the floor, stunned. The second officer lunged at Vrexa, but she was too quick. With a precise movement, she disarmed him, knocking him unconscious in seconds. Elise breathed a sigh of relief, her heart pounding in her chest. That was too close. Vrexa wiped her brow, her eyes scanning the hallway. "We don't have time to celebrate. We need to keep moving." They continued their journey, but the path to the control hub was becoming more dangerous by the minute. The closer they got, the more Scifi officers they encountered. It was clear now. The traitors were everywhere, and they were willing to do whatever it took to stop Elise and Vrexa from succeeding. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the central control hub. But when they entered, they found it empty. The computers were active, but the room was eerily quiet. "Where are they?" Elise whispered, looking around nervously. Vrexa's eyes narrowed. "They know we're here, but they've made one mistake." The princess approached the main console and activated a sequence of commands. The entire control room hummed to life, the screens flickering with new data. The sabotage, it seemed, had been set to overload the entire system, but Vrexa had found a way to reverse the damage. She worked quickly, typing commands into the system with a calm that belied the danger they were in. "We're almost there," Vrexa said, her fingers flying over the keys. "But we need a distraction. We need to buy some time." Elise looked out the door, hearing the distant sound of footsteps approaching. "We don't have much time." Without thinking, Elise grabbed a nearby tool and threw it against a far wall. The loud bang echoed through the hallway, distracting the approaching officers. As they rushed toward the noise, Elise and Vrexa turned back to the system, working together in perfect sync. The seconds ticked by, each one feeling like a lifetime. But then, finally, the sabotage was undone. The systems flickered back to life, and the breach was contained. "We did it," Elise said, her voice breathless. "But we're not done yet. We still need to find the traitor." Vrexa nodded, her eyes steely. "The war isn't over, but we've won this battle." And with that, they prepared for the next phase of their fight. The traitors had been exposed, but their true enemy still lurked in the shadows. Together, Elise and Vrexa would stop them, no matter what. The tension was palpable. The sabotage had been stopped, but the war was far from over. Elise Carter and Princess Vrexa stood side by side, knowing that the real enemy, the one who had orchestrated the attack, still lurked in the shadows. Their fight had just begun. "We've bought ourselves some time," Vrexa said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "But the traitors won't back down. We need to find out who's pulling the strings." Elise nodded, her mind racing. The Scifi Empire was no longer the united front they had once believed it to be. There were factions within, working with the Ural Consortium to bring them down. They had exposed the first wave of sabotage, but there were more enemies out there, hiding in plain sight. The threat was far from over. "We need to get back to the command center," Elise said. "There are still key players we haven't identified. If we can get the right information, we can root out the rest of the traitors." Vrexa's sharp eyes scanned the room. "We don't have much time. We'll move quickly. But first, we need to secure the ship. The traitors may have allies among the crew. We can't let them take control again." Together, they began coordinating with the remaining loyal officers, making sure the ship's critical systems were fully operational. It wasn't easy. Every moment, they feared another attack, another betrayal. But they pressed on, knowing the stakes were higher than ever. Hours passed as they pieced together the puzzle. Each discovery brought them closer to the truth. They found a trail of evidence, small clues that pointed to a select few within the higher ranks of the Scifi leadership, individuals who had been working with the Ural Consortium from the very beginning. "Elise, I think we've got them," Vrexa said, her voice filled with quiet triumph. "The Consortium has placed their operatives in key positions, but there's one more thing. The traitor we need to stop is in the command center right now." Elise's eyes widened. "You mean?" "Yes," Vrexa confirmed. "Captain Asneth. He's the mastermind behind all of this." Elise's stomach dropped. She had trusted Captain Asneth. He had been one of the few officers who had shown real support for their mission. But now, it all made sense. The sudden calls for lockdown, the way he had diverted attention when the sabotage first started. It was all part of his plan to buy time for the Ural Consortium. "We have to stop him," Elise said, her voice hard with resolve. "No more waiting. We confront him now." Without hesitation, the two women made their way toward the command center. The ship was eerily quiet, as if the entire crew was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. They knew this final confrontation would determine the fate of everything they had worked for. As they reached the command center doors, they could hear the low hum of voices. Elise and Vrexa exchanged a look. This was it. They were about to face their enemy. The doors slid open, and there, standing at the central console, was Captain Asneth. His face was calm, but his eyes, those eyes, told a different story. He had known they were coming. He had been ready for this moment. "Ambassador Carter, Princess Vrexa," Captain Asneth said, his voice smooth, almost mocking. "I was wondering how long it would take you to figure it out." Elise felt a surge of anger, but she kept her composure. "It's over, Asneth. We know everything. You've been working with the Ural Consortium to sabotage our project. And now, it ends." The captain smiled, But it was a cold, calculating smile. You think you've won. You think your precious alliance with the humans will change the galaxy. You're fools. The Scifi Empire is not a democracy. We rule through power, and nothing will change that. Vrexa stepped forward, her eyes burning with fury. You've betrayed everything I've worked for. Everything my people have fought for. You've put us all at risk. For what? Power. Greed. Asneth's smile only grew wider. You don't understand, Princess. The Scifi have always been the true rulers of this galaxy. The humans, your species, are nothing more than tools, and the Ural Consortium understands that. They know the truth. Elise clenched her fists. You're wrong, Asneth. The future doesn't belong to you. It belongs to us, humanity and the Scifi. Together. Together. Asneth laughed, shaking his head. You truly believe that? You're delusional. The Scifi will never accept your kind as equals. We're already far beyond you. But before he could say more, Vrexa raised her hand, signaling Elise to step back. The princess's eyes were full of determination. The Scifi Empire is changing. I've seen the future, and I won't let you destroy it because of your arrogance. In a flash, Vrexa activated the ship's security lockdown, sealing the command center doors. The entire room was bathed in a harsh red light as the systems activated, cutting off all communications with the outside. The captain's smug expression faltered, and for a moment he seemed to realize that he had underestimated them. You think you can hold me here? Asneth sneered, his voice filled with venom. You're nothing without me. The Yril will destroy you all. We'll see about that, Elise replied coldly, stepping forward with Vrexa. Together, they had exposed the traitor. Together, they had fought to protect their alliance. And together, they would rebuild a future, not ruled by fear and betrayal, but by hope and unity. As the command center locked down, they knew the fight wasn't over, but they had won the most important battle. The future was no longer in the hands of the traitors. It was in their hands now.